Well, something's been telling me it's about time that I posted a video about PMDD. Um, I suffered with PMDD for over 20 years. Ever since puberty, my parents and friends noticed something wasn't right every once in a while, and I was always ashamed. I remember one time a male friend commented that, oh, it must be PMS because I was really irritable one day at school. Um, I don't know exactly what causes it. I know there are studies that say that it has to do with hormone receptors, the ESR1 receptor, I believe, in particular. That your body, when you have PMDD, it cannot tolerate normal hormone changes in your cycle, like a sensitivity to rising progesterone levels during the luteal phase of the menstrual cycle. Basically, I went through a lot to get treatment, and they put me, it was really, it was humiliating what they did to me. There is no other word for it. The doctors, their exams, their misdiagnoses, they said I had depression or things like that. And it was really, I feel like it was really cruel, inadvertently so, but really cruel what the medical profession put me through when I was trying to get help. I do live in a part of the country that's considered the Bible Belt. I love it here. There's a lot of really friendly people. We have our issues like anywhere else, but for the most part, I'm very happy here. And, however, the doctors, the ones that did know what PMDD was, and we're talking specialists, OBGYN specialists, the ones that did know what it was were afraid to treat it. They all tried to pass me off on another type of doctor or specialist. A family doctor tried me on multiple different antidepressants, SSRIs, SNRIs, things like that, and nothing ever seemed to help. They either made it worse or created problems I never had that were unbearable, like side effects. And so once I finally got the money together, I went and saw some specialists. Oh yeah, the family doctor also, this was the worst. He tried to send me to a psychiatrist. And now, mind you, while I was self-diagnosed, I knew all along what the problem was. The bigger problem was that no one was listening to me, and no one would take me seriously. Seconded by specialists in the OBGYN field, didn't know anything about treating PMDD. I was even told things like, I did a lot of internet research, and I was really disappointed in the wealth of the globe of information that's out there in the form of the internet. It was sadly lacking. It said things that were downright insulting, like change your diet and exercise more to avoid PMDD symptoms. And I had done all of that for a long, long time, and none of it had helped. I remember having some anxiety, some PMDD related anxiety so bad that I had to leave the gym because I couldn't stand people looking at me. It was terrible. It really was. And I'm not trying to play this up for more than it was to try to get attention. I'm telling you, it was terrible. I mean, I was suicidal for about a week out of every month and just could not function. I could barely function. Thank goodness I had a forgiving employer and a forgiving family. Otherwise, I might not be here creating this recording right now. It was very bad. I'm not exaggerating when I said I was suicidal, because the thing was, whether this has anything to do with it or not, the fact of the matter is I had grown up being uncomfortable with my biological femininity. I was. I don't know if gender dysphoric is the best way to put it. Probably. I hated my body, and I hated it even more during puberty. The reason I hated it was because in school they taught us a lot of nature studies and a lot about animals and things like that, biology, and in every species the female was always smaller and weaker, and its only purpose was to bear children, it seemed like. You know, in birds the females were smaller and blander colors like brown or gray, and the males were always big and colorful, and I know they didn't intend it to, and believe me, I'm not trying to sound like a weak person here, but it really damaged my self-esteem terribly, and it made me hate being female. I'm not blaming them necessarily. The teachers and everyone just taught what was on the curriculum, and really, nobody knows how particular subject matter will be received by all audiences. I know their intent was not to offend me. I had suffered some sexual abuse as a child, not from family, thankfully, but there were friends that were not really friends that tried to get too close. And so that may have had something to do with hating my own body. I don't know. Anyway, it took me quite a few years of research, constant research, to find out what it was and if it was treatable. Finally, I read the studies of Dr. Studd over in the UK, who has kindly presented information and has not been afraid to stand up to the medical establishment as a whole, internationally, and said that total hysterectomy, which includes the uterus and both ovaries, has been shown to eliminate PMDD 100% as a final line of treatment and after all other avenues have been attempted. I know that seems almost extreme to people who are not familiar with this, but let me assure you that PMDD is an extreme illness in its nature. Nobody should ever have to suffer with suicidal thoughts on a regular basis if there is anything that can be done to help it. So, it's something that if the patient is willing to go through that, then I think they should have the freedom. I think that woman should be able to do that without being humiliated, steered away from it, or shamed for her decision. This is a life or death issue. It is a life or death illness. And I'm speaking from experience. I wish I could have done so many things, and I did not realize what the problem really was. I just knew that most of the time I could think clearly. I was happy, I was cheerful, and then a few days before my cycle started, I was in the pits of despair. I could not focus, I could not concentrate, I could not function at even 40% of my normal abilities in anything, in work, at home. Household chores had to be left undone. Tasks at my job had to be done halfway, or whatever I could handle at the time. And then when I was at the top, meaning when I felt at my best, I could knock out everything that needed to be done and double to catch up for the times that I couldn't focus. You know, it was almost exhilarating, almost manic, for lack of a better word, whenever my cycle started. And I do realize that it's been said that a lot of people who are diagnosed as being bipolar, in fact, had PMDD because it's cyclical in its nature. But anyway, the mania wasn't really a mania. It was a hyper joy at the relief I felt. And this is not this I'm making it sound like it's some kind of insane amount of, you know, utopian happiness. That's not what it was. It was just feeling normal like other people feel. I want to make that clear. It was not feeling bogged down with depression and anxiety and all these other horrible things that can be debilitating. So, yes, I finally succeeded in having my hysterectomy. For 20 years, I prayed to God for help, for healing from that illness, because in my religious beliefs, that shouldn't be a last priority when all other things have failed. It should really be a first. It was always in the top of the list of things to do. I would always pray. But I hoped, and I worked, and I researched, and I exercised, and I ate healthy, and everything else. Sometimes I would just give up on doing those on occasion because nothing I did could stop it. I had zero control. I need to reaffirm that. People with PMDD, or at least me, I had no control over my symptoms. None. Like I said, exercise, diet, meditation, everything did not change the symptoms. There were some drugs that altered the symptoms or made them worse, but no noticeable relief was ever achieved or established with the use of those medications. This is my personal story, but I fully believe that hysterectomies should be offered as an option for women with PMDD that all other avenues of treatment have failed if they are willing to undergo a hysterectomy with bilateral oophorectomy, which is both ovaries being removed at the same time. Thank you for listening. I did finally get my hysterectomy. All of the PMDD symptoms have completely gone. I do take the estradiol, hormone replacement therapy. I have not had any problems with that. I have not had any problems with that I don't think were just normal recovery issues with such a major surgery. I haven't even had very many hot flashes so long as I take the estradiol. I'm not a huge fan of synthetic anything, but it has helped me. So, if you know someone suffering from PMDD, I encourage you to help them find the material published online by Dr. Studd, S-T-U-D-D, in the UK. There's some material that has been written by him. It is written by and for medical professionals. I did take it to my doctor, and he did reluctantly agree after a while. Also, he did approve the surgery because I had other underlying issues that the surgery would help. One of them being caused from another surgery I had previously had. So anyway, thank you so much for listening, and if you have PMDD, I am hoping that you'll recover and get better. I'm hoping that this talk has helped you and given you hope and encouraged you. And I, as a former PMDD sufferer, are in your corner completely. I am behind you 100%. And I do believe that you can and will get better, and you will get through this. Thank you.